Again. Okay, big shot. Swimming through the riptides from the cliff, but I got love on the twip side. Moves of the day, no rules, just play. Go against me and you'll be losing the day. Moves on the bean, all I do is fillet. Beast need a feast, about to go and got a steak. Lyrics on homie, might go and cop a case. Going with no trace, go get the caution tape. I got sauce in my veins, no flaws in my game. Deep sea thoughts get lost in my brain. I done broke up out the cage. Yeah, I'm the lion untamed. I am the answer, I am the answer. Not for the banter, I am like Sanders, Deanna Berry. You do not scare me.
I am the answer, I am the answer. Not for the banter, I am like Sanders, Deanna Berry. You do not scare me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 10th episode of Visionary Rhetoric. I'm so glad to be here. I'm glad that you are here with me, engaging, tapping in, tuning in, whatever you want to say. We're going to jump right into this format that I said I would try. I told myself, I had a meeting with myself that we're going to try a new format here, right? I'm going to keep some of the same elements when we talk about current events and things like that. But I also want to have a little bit of structure in the beginning of the episode where we could talk about a specific topic. The reason why I want to switch to this kind of format is because I want to eventually have guests on. And when we talk about the topic, I want the beginning of the episode to reflect the conversation that I have with the guest. And then I want to go into my current events. And then we have some other things that I'm going to do. And I'm going to start with this episode 10. Now, the key is going to be your feedback to me. I seen somebody shouting me out on Spotify. I appreciate that. I really appreciate you taking the time not only to listen, but to give me feedback, to give me encouragement, right? The key thing to all of this, and I want to say I'm at episode 10 and I'm excited to be here. The key thing for all of this for me is not to get overly invested in the analytics when we get to the start. Right. And today we're going to talk about a topic that's very important. And it's vision from the valley. And right now I'm in a valley when it comes to this content creation. And that's something that I don't want to skate around. I don't even want to act like it's not happening, because in reality, that's just how it is when you first start. You first started a job, you're not going to be elevated unless you know somebody, unless there's some nepotism, or you just come highly recommended and you know, they want to elevate you quickly. They don't need that long to see you in action, to see that you should be elevated to the next level. Unless that happens, for the most part, you're going to be in your position for, you know, 2-3 years, right? To show that you're proficient at what you came in to do in the entry level. That is a valley, though. There's a grind. You know, the pay isn't that great. The expectations are very high, and you know, it's a valley of sorts. I think when we look at valleys, we look at setbacks, we look at failures, we look at you know, financial stressors and things like that, living paycheck to paycheck. We always consider those to be valleys, right? But also just starting out something can be a valley. So right now I'm in the valley and I'm walking through, I'm building my character, I'm developing skills, I'm getting better at what I do. Developing editing skills to a certain degree. Now, there's going to be a point where maybe it's time to elevate beyond my ability. But for right now, kind of like what Nipsey was saying in one interview I watched from him, for right now, I want to be tapped into every part of the process so that even when I elevate, you notice how I'm speaking, when I elevate to the next level, and I need an engineer, I need a person to really edit my video and my audio to make it very crystal clear and high quality. I want to be able to know the process so that when they're doing what they're doing, I can be a part of that process of picking clips and picking, you know, when they send me the proofs and being able to look through and say, you know what, that's it. Or, you know what, when you were doing this right here, I think you cut out something that I really want to keep. I want to know how to do it. I don't want to just send it to somebody and then they just send me back what they think is good. There's a vision that I have, even though I'm in the valley. There may be people who are more proficient at editing, engineering, all that kind of stuff, but they don't have my vision. They don't have my vision. You know what I'm saying? So episode 10, I'm hyped up, vision from the valley. Let's get right into it. So when we talk about vision, what are we talking about? We're talking about your dream. for how things could be based on how things are or were, right? So when we look at vision, you have to consider the past, you have to consider where you are in the present to be able to formulate where you want to be in the future. The most important part of all of that is your present, right? The past is important because it teaches you things about yourself and the people that you've done life with, right? So that's really important. But the present is all you ever have. So we can't ever forsake the present. We definitely shouldn't do it for the past, and we definitely shouldn't do it for the future. Now, I heard this little saying, and I forget where I heard it from, but it says that depression is fixation on what you could have done or what the past, what happened to you, right? And anxiety is a fixation on where you want to be or where you're going, right? Something that you have no control over. The only thing you have control of, no matter what these gurus say online, is the present moment. I don't even know that I'm going to get the next word out, let alone that I'm going to get another day. So we have to stay focused. Like Dr. Umar said, brothers, we have got to stay focused. Brothers, we have got to stay focused. Brothers, we have got to stay focused. But anyway, we got to stay focused on the present, right? But the past, the present really helps shape what the future is going to look like. Do you appreciate what you got in the past? If so, you may incorporate that into your vision of the future. Do you appreciate or do you have gratitude for what you have right now? Just right now. I want you to stop and think for a second. Pause the video. Stop, think for a second about what you have right now in relationships, what you have right now in material possessions, what you have right now in employment, what you have right now in just ideas and creativity. Just pause the video really quick and think about that. But moving right along, I want to talk about who ends up in the valley, right? And to me, from my purview, what I see is that people who have tremendous purpose and gifts end up in valleys, right? And again, remember what I said in the beginning. In the beginning, I told you a valley doesn't have to be a setback or a failure. A valley could literally be just starting out the journey towards what you want, right? So I'm just thinking about, entry level stuff, right? In higher ed, an entry level position would be like an advisor, right? So top of the mountain would be like being president of the university, right? So if you have a goal, and I know people who have started off as advisors, and they have a goal to be one day to be a president of a university or a college, if it's a community college. So it's not bad to have that goal. It's not bad to have a vision, right? And I'm gonna pick my guy up here, right here. Maya 5. Yeah, that means window. But anyway, it's not bad to have a vision, right? For what you want, right? So you can set that as a distant vision. But if you're not a good steward of what you have each and every moment, that present moment, it doesn't matter what your vision is because you'll never get there because you can't even appreciate where you are. So being an advisor, you have to appreciate being an advisor because there are things that you will learn along the way to help you be one of the most effective presidents of a college or university, right? So that's just me using an example. So you may feel like being an advisor is a valley because it's an entry level job, right? So that's one way to look at a valley. The other way, right, of looking at a valley would be a setback or a failure. So let's say you've been working at your job for 5 years. There's a promotion up, and you feel like you've done everything you could to get that promotion. It's time for that promotion. Your supervisor has said that they are proud of you, that they want to see you elevated and all that kind of stuff. But when it's time for that promotion, what happens? They elevate another person. So in that elevation, right, what happens is you become resentful because you feel like I've done my best here. I've done everything I could, not only to be noticed as one of the best employees at this particular place, but also to advance this company, to advance this institution, to advance, if it's politics, this community, this state, or whatever it may be, just to advance whatever you're a part of, you've done your due diligence and you feel like you earned that position. That role was for you and you didn't get it. Now we're in a place of setback because you had an idea about where you were going in the next iteration of your life and it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, right? So, being that that happened, you have some decisions to make, right? You got to decide whether or not you're going to stay where you are or if you're going to start looking elsewhere for that elevation. Because sometimes, especially in higher ed, you have to go outside of the system you're in order to get the elevation you want. And it just happens that way, right? Sometimes you get skipped over, and it happens. Sometimes it's due to who people know rather than actually how good they are at what they do. And it happens everywhere, right? There's it's just human nature. They can say they got policies against it, and everybody has a policy against that kind of thing, or we don't operate in that way. We don't have a culture of that. Nepotism in a certain way is more so attached to maybe an affinity than it is being related and things like that. So these places have these little things. Oh, we don't do that. We make sure that everybody is being judged off merit, off of what they do. But it's just impossible to keep that because we're humans, and humans have the capacity to like people. And sometimes you can like somebody so much that you can actually look past the fact that maybe they're not more qualified or equipped than another person who should have gotten a role, but you're willing to take the chance and maybe it works out. I'm not saying it never works out because sometimes it does work out. Sometimes nepotism happens and it works out. So let's be honest about that too. But again, I'm really focusing on Valley right now. Who ends up in the Valley? And to me, it's people who have tremendous gifting, calling, and purpose. It's people who have tremendous gifting, calling, and purpose in life. They are the ones that end up in the Valley. And people who are very powerful and influential, right? Because we see what happens when there aren't enough valleys before people get elevated. I'm thinking about Donald Trump off the top. This is not a political thing. This is me just looking at the man and who he has been. Again, you're gonna watch this, especially those who are gung ho Trump, right? And he's a disaster. I want to tell y'all that right now because that man will say anything to obtain the power that he wants. I'll tell you that. And we're going to talk about that in the current events more, but I'm not going to go there. What I'm going to say is when you don't have enough time in the Valley and you're elevated too quickly, it leaves a malnourished, that's a better way of putting that. It leaves a malnourished character. So what happens is, we got favor after favor after favor after favor, elevation after elevation, no character development. And you get these crooked people who don't know how to treat people right, who do people wrong, actually, who screw people over because they haven't spent enough time in the Valley to understand what it's like to be the people who they're screwing over, right? So if you spend time in the Valley, it should be, unless you have some type of personality disorder, less likely for you to screw over the everyday middle working class person because you spent time there, right? Now, listen to what I just said before that. Unless you got some type of personality disorder, unless you got some type of built up rage and resentment towards the way you were brought up because you wish you had a better life, and so now you just don't have nothing good for the everyday middle class, working class person, there should be less likely of a chance for you to screw those type of people over, right? So how can we end up in that space? There could be jealousy. I'm thinking of like a Scar, right? So Simba ends up in his valley because Scar kills his father, or puts his father in a position to be trampled and then die. I would say kill. He murdered Mufasa. Now I know with this new movie coming out, there's this confusion and things like that. I'm basing it off of what we knew about the Lion King prior to this live action Mufasa that's going to come out, right? I almost look at that. I think a little deviation. Settle down a little bit, all right? We get it. The source material doesn't lend itself to the new plot that is being put forth about Mufasa, right? One, let's just look at this. You know, Disney has Marvel's in the multiverse stuff. Let's look at this as another universe, right? Let's say in a different universe, this was Mufasa's journey or pathway to being king of Pride Rock, and why he beat out um Scar like that, right? And what happened, right? Let's look at this as a different universe. I don't see the live actions as direct copies of the source material. What I see the live actions as is their own thing by itself. So I think if we start to look at them like that, because they take some liberties away from the source materials, in doing the live actions and things like that. And I think the live action iterations of a lot of the ones, especially the ones with the animals in it, as much as people said it looked weird because animals don't emote the same way, I think it looked beautiful. It was almost like watching um National Geographic, but in a story format. So I think it was beautiful. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to Mufasa, but I just think we need to step back and take it out. Back to the whole topic though. Jealousy can end you up in the valley, right? So Scar being jealous of Mufasa's positioning as king caused him to murder Mufasa and put Simba into a valley thinking that he murdered or he caused his father to be killed or he caused his father to die. And that sets him into a valley where he grows up out in the jungle with Timon and Pumbaa out in the wilderness, and they raise him up under different principles. But it's a valley because psychologically he was so torn up and still bothered by it that even when Rafiki came to visit him, he could not shake it. But I say that to say he had to go through that. And him coming back to reclaim Pride Rock, he had to by fighting Scar and the hyenas. Him fighting was him fighting his way out of the valley. He spent time in the valley. He got a different perspective of life, which equipped him to be a far greater king to me than his father could ever be, because his father became a king and was a king out of a certain grid that was very limited to just protect Pride Rock, stay away from the elephant graveyard, and that's it. And Circle of Life, and that's it. Him getting a different perspective outside of all of that made him a greater king. Same thing with T'Challa. And I think in some cases we could look at T'Challa's death as the result of jealousy, right? And no, not Killmonger. Killmonger wasn't jealous of T'Challa. He may have envied him for growing up with his father and the fact that his father killed his father, which is Killmonger's uncle, killed his brother / T'Challa's uncle, right? So there was envy from Killmonger, right? You have envy from the fact that like your father killed my father and you got to be raised by your father, but I didn't. So I got a lot of anger and pain and even envy towards you because I feel like you had the life that I should have had growing up, but I didn't. So now I'm just this dude that's in your way, right? So you got that. But I think what really set that off was rage that came from a deep sadness, right? So Killmonger's in the valley. T'Challa was in the valley when it comes to his father, dying at the hand of the Winter Soldier. These are all valley points that build the person's character. So Killmonger's character became rage, and it became murder. It became I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna get my get back. But then it was also kind of intertwined with like I'm also for the people, like my dad was. My dad was like all power to the people, and we gonna do this thing. Like we're gonna get it for all the people by taking the technology, taking the resources from Wakanda and using it for the diaspora. So that valley he was in though was filled with rage, murder, envy, and things like that. Same thing with Scar. Scar had jealousy towards his brother about having to being able to be in the king, right? Because he felt like I could have been a king. And some of us have that in our life, right? We have that type of thing in our life. And I'm building this up because I want to get into the part where we talk about some other things that could be in the valley. So fear. Fear of the power that we possess is one of the things that I think about too when we're in our valley. Sometimes we want to stay in the valley because in the valley we are unseen. Nobody is expecting anything of us. Nobody is wanting us to lead anything. So we get to be unseen. We get to sit back. We get to withhold the power that we have within us, and we get to allow everyone else to do what they need to do when we just sit back and watch, right? So we have that, and we have, you know, to me, the valley sometimes you go on social media, right? And everybody's talking about their victories. They're talking about their wins, right? They're never talking about the process. They're really just talking about winning. And they're showing you they're winning. They're showing you all of the material gains. They're showing you the money. They're showing you, or they're telling you how to get those things. You want this, you got to do this. You want this kind of money, you got to do this. And everything is built or centered around how much you can earn financially, right? And I just think if your goals are limited to the amount of money that you can earn, then you will live a very small life. You may become a multimillionaire, right? So hear me out on that one. But to me, money is not a marker of success in reality. I think it could be a marker of good stewardship, and how you treat the money, the funds that you get. But I don't think it's the marker of success. I think if your goal is to amass, multi-million dollars, 10 million, let's say 10 million is your goal, right? When you get there, you're going to say, this is it. Because it really doesn't change much. And yes, I know somebody's going to say, yeah, but what about financial freedom? What about leaving a legacy? What about generational wealth? They love that. Whenever somebody leave with generational wealth, I already start to not trust you, because I just feel like you're so fixated on money that you'll do anything. And I mean, maybe not all of y'all, but for the most part, I've seen it time and time again. The people who lead with generational, I want to teach the Black community how to get generational wealth and all that. And they sound like Martin Luther King, but when we talk about generational wealth, they become like the leader of a movement. And I'm not putting no names out there, but recently you've seen people. And the thing is, what they do may not be illegal, right? As far as what we might say is like, oh, they're taking advantage of people. It may not be illegal to do what they're doing, right? In many cases, it may be something that's well within the law. So you couldn't take them to court for that. Or if you did, you'd be a waste of time and money on your end because you're not getting that money back, or you're not getting compensated for whatever it is you're trying to get compensated for because they didn't break a law. A lot of these wolves is smart. They know how to scam you within the law so that they can say it's not illegal. And they go on these interviews and say, I did everything within the law. Nothing I did was illegal. Matter of fact, there are plenty of people, plenty of gurus who people respect who have done these same things, and nobody says anything about it. The problem is, we won't even get into that. That'll be a topic for another time. But if money is your primary marker for success, I got to get this amount of money to get success because my parents before me didn't leave me anything. So now I want to get money so I could live well while I'm here, but I could also leave my kid. It's noble. And am I against it? No, I just think legacy is far beyond just money. I know a lot of people who are being left millions of dollars. I know a lot of people who have been left millions of dollars, and they could tell you, and maybe one day I'll have those people on, that having money is great because it takes away your concerns and your worries for bills and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, relationship building would have been a far greater legacy that their parents or grandparents or great grands could have left them. You have generations of people who don't have much great to say about each other from a relational standpoint. They can say, hey, they did their due diligence. They left me this money. Okay, cool. Right. But from that standpoint, they really don't. So back to this valley idea. So with the valley, right, we're talking about difficult times. We're talking about challenging times. We're talking about character development. We're talking about skill enhancing. We're talking about evolution, becoming the person you are always supposed to become, right? And that's a never ending process. We're talking about resistance, right? Think about climbing a hill. When you're in the valley, you're at the foot of the mountain, right? Everybody wants to be at the top. And that's what I was getting to about it. Everybody in social media shows you the top and they think it's inspiration and all that kind of stuff. No, what's inspiring is like in Creed 3, when we had to watch Donnie go from retired to now I'm intrigued. Now I'm in this. Oh, now it's on site. Oh, we fighting for the belt. Oh, now we watched Donnie do that, right? We watched him. If you watch that montage when he was trying to get back in shape and he was fighting, not just physically, but he was fighting psychologically, emotionally, what happened as a kid, right? So he had been suppressing that for so long, right? He had success, married, beautiful wife, beautiful, and I'm describing this as if this is a real person, but I just want to like lay it out. Beautiful wife, beautiful daughter, beautiful home, beautiful life, gym, everything you could want as a fighter who fought well and was a champion multiple times. Everything you would want in retirement. He had enough wherewithal mentally so he didn't suffer like a lot of boxers do. Here comes this person from your past to remind you of who you really are at your core. And that's the thing. Money, things, girl, like women is a distraction. And then for ladies, money, things, men wanting you, all that stuff is a distraction away from who you really are at your core. So if you elevate to the top, which technically Donnie rose to the top very quickly, right? He did have to come through some things. We know that. He did have to come through some things, but at the same time, he definitely did rise to the top very quickly. And when you rise to the top quickly, right, what happens is you don't have a chance to really, really drill down that character that you're building in that rise, right? So what happens is you start to realize like, oh, I got some deficits. And we see in the scene where him and Bianca are arguing, and she's trying to understand him and figure out what's really driving him crazy about this this old friend that pops back up. And he's like, what, you trying to feel sorry for me? You trying to, I might show the clip. I don't know if it's gonna let me, I don't know what it's gonna do if I try to show it, but he's like, what you trying to feel sorry for me? Nah, leave it, it's dead. It's dead. Like he's going in, right? Because he suppressed it. He in a way he killed it, but he only killed the memory of it. I don't even think he killed it though. He knocked it out. And the problem when you just knock out the memory of something that is traumatic, that is something that is triggering, that is something that is very upsetting to you, right? The problem is eventually it's going to come out of a coma. If you don't deal with it, it's going to come out of a coma. So in his rise, his ascension to the top of the mountain as this prolific boxer and then promoter and trainer and all that kind of stuff. In his rise, he suppressed, he didn't deal with, right? So this movie was all about that. It was all about dealing with the things from your past, dealing with the things in your present that are uncomfortable, upsetting, disappointing, angering. You know what I mean? So we have to deal with those things. We can't just suppress them. We have to deal with them because in the valley is where those things arise. It's where those things are in our face. And if we don't deal with them, then they will be coming back to us when we get to the top of the mountain. We don't get to just walk past stuff and then just think, well, if I win, if I get the money, if I get this, if I get that, if I get a good wife, that everything that I got to deal with is just going to dissolve. No, that's not how that works. It's going to be there. So you need to take the time to deal with those things. There's therapy. Those are all the things you could do while you're in the valley. You can do that in the valley while you're experiencing these things. You can do that in the valley when you're just starting out something, right? Like I said, it's not always just setbacks and failures that are in the valley or that put you in the valley or that are a marker of the valley. Sometimes it's just starting a journey, and you need to be in therapy for that too, because it's going to cause things to arise in you that you thought you might have been past. So if you have this issue, or if you've always had historically this issue with being or feeling, I should say, insignificant, right? If you're just starting off in a relationship and the person is very like so very much about their space and autonomy, even though they want to get to know you and they want to relate with you, you're going to struggle. If you're just starting off a job and your direct report is not very encouraging, they're not discouraging, but they're not very encouraging. So you're not getting the, oh, that's a great job. Oh, I really appreciate you. I'm grateful you're on this team. Oh my goodness. If you weren't on the team, I don't know how people get this done. If your supervisor's not like that, that's going to mess with you. But guess what? It could be building your character in a way that, and this is things that are in the valley, that could be building your character in a way that you don't need the accolades. You don't need somebody to boost you up and boost your ego and all this stuff in order for you to do excellent in whatever it is that you're doing. If that's in a relationship, if that's at work, if that's school, that could be training you not to need that. Now, if you get it, you appreciate it, you're grateful for it, and you acknowledge it. You say thank you, right? And you give those type of things. But if it doesn't come to you, it won't throw you off because you have a vision in the valley. There's a place you're going that is void of the need for accolades, of the need for someone to encourage you, inspire you, motivate you. That valley may be there to show you that when you get to the mountaintop, ain't nobody, it's not going to be that many people cheering for you outside of the people who are connected to you either by choice or familially. People ain't going to be cheering for you. So here in this valley, we're going to start it now when you need it most. How are you talking to yourself? How do you see yourself? Right? If you have poor head talk, it's likely that you don't see yourself as significant and you're looking for external validation. And that's the problem. So in the valley, we're going to work this external validation need out of you. That's how I see it. We're going to work that right on out of you. In the valley, we're going to work the need for motivation, somebody to, inspire you and keep you going and we're going to work that out of you, because when you get to the top and everybody is looking at you to do that for them, you ain't going to have much of that. So where are you going to get it? Where's your source coming from? Now, my source comes from God. I believe in God and I follow Christ. That's one of my sources. But in my belief, in my faith, is where I see things like I am fearfully and wonderfully made, right? I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, that's something I believe about myself. So even on my worst day, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and it keeps me going. It's something that I have committed to my spirit. Even when a doubt creeps into my mind about who I am and what I'm capable of, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Let's keep this show rolling, Viz. Let's go. And so I want you to practice that, right? So when you're in the valley, see, this is why we need to get in the practice of affirmations. Because in the valley, you're going to need to affirm yourself. Because guess what? If you in the valley, so is everybody else. So is everybody else. So practice affirmations. At the end of this episode, I want you to write down, let's say, 3 affirmations for the month. And you say them things to yourself when you wake up in the morning, you brushing your teeth, please brush your teeth. And when you go to sleep and you brush your teeth, please brush your teeth, right? Say those 3 things. I'm going to say 3 for myself right now. I'm strong, I'm powerful, and I'm beautiful. And yes, men, we can be beautiful. I said this before, I forget on what, but we can be beautiful. I'm strong, powerful, and beautiful. Now, strong and power might feel like it's the same thing, but it's not. Strong is from a physical standpoint, is what I'm thinking. Power is from an emotional, spiritual standpoint. And then I'm beautiful. That's in all ways. I'm a beautiful man. That's why I love Muhammad Ali. It's one of my favorite, if not favorite, athletes. And not just because of what he did in the ring, but because of how he spoke outside of the ring, whether it be social justice, whether it be talking about how he talked about himself. You know what I mean? People had such a adverse response to him because they couldn't stand no black man. Even black folk couldn't stand no black man up there talking about how beautiful he was, how handsome he is, how well spoken he was. Couldn't stand that. And I love it because that's how we should be. Like I said on the last episode, Dex calls himself the one. We went to Mexico for him and Fatima's wedding, right? That's what he was calling it the whole time, Dexico. Come on, man. Like, yo, you gotta affirm yourself. Pick 3 things per month. Say that. Say it until you believe it. You ain't gotta believe it when you pick them. But maybe you need to, this is how I pick my affirmations. I go to the things that I struggle thinking about, believing about myself, not thinking. I go to the things that I struggle believing about myself, and then I create an affirmation around that. Because we have to be able to affirm ourselves. We cannot always search for external encouragement, uplifting, motivation. We have to be able to internally do those things for ourselves, because if we're so reliant, when that thing dry up, when the well of encouragement dries up from the people who we expect it from, man, you're gonna resent that person. 2, you're gonna miss the opportunity to begin to encourage and affirm yourself. Climbing, or let's just say walking through the valley, can be met with a lot of resistance, right? People fight. You might have a mistake, a mess up that you know is going to set you back, but you try your best. I think about like school. You might miss a deadline. You emailing, what I got to do to try. Can I turn it in late? Can I do this? Can I do that? Or whatever it is, right? You're trying to figure it out. And instead of just stopping and saying, you know what? It's a lesson learned. Had a few students this summer, had different situations happen. End up working out for them. But they were scraping and clawing, trying to make something work. And in reality, I was just looking like, this is a lesson learned. This is life. And we always kind of feel like things aren't fair. Things aren't going away. And, you know, I don't care what that person's role is, but what they're saying is not fair or just. It may be true. But again, kind of back to that idea of like those financial gurus who say, everything I did, you know, you invested this amount of money, but you were supposed to get a return and you didn't get this return. Everything I did, you know, in response to that, or in the interim, was totally above water. It was all legal. Legal doesn't mean ethical though. And that's the problem, right? When you go from valley straight up, like you ain't got to go through the valley a little bit and then get to the mountain and climb the mountain and then get to the top. You go from valley and you take a chairlift all the way to the top. And you up there, yeah, I'm the greatest. And you talking like Muhammad Ali, but you ain't got no type of character development behind that thing. See, Muhammad Ali could talk like that because he was willing to go in the ring and take some punches. That's what the valley is. The valley is punches. It's punches. It's the rope-a-dope. It's when you ain't got nothing left in you but to just be an endurer. You ain't got nothing left in you but to just lean up against the rope. You like this. Boom. Let me do this. Eventually it's gonna swing back around. Eventually life is gonna swing into a way where, you know, I'm gonna get myself back. But right now, you know what I'm doing? I'm just getting go ahead. Throw your punches, life. Throw your punches. Oh yeah. They hitting me. What you don't know is you getting tired, life. You getting tired because you thought you was gonna take me out. And think about that person that might want to take you out. You thought you was gonna take me out. I'm here though. I'm bouncing on the ropes. You hitting me. Oh yeah. You getting them hits in? You thought I was gonna be done, supervisor. You thought I was gonna quit. I outlasted you. Now it's my time. Look at you resigning. Look at them elevating me to your position. Look at all the character I developed in this time that you gave me a hard time, right? And you sit there, you hitting the rope a dope. Yeah, it don't feel good. You getting hit by George Foreman. It don't feel good. Them things is he throwing them things. And let's say that's life. Like they throwing them things. They throwing everything at you. You listen, you get this done, supervisor's like, oh, that was cool. Get this done now. You run around in circles, you doing their job. You doing what they really supposed to do. And they think they doing something for you. They not really doing nothing for you. What you doing right now is you are getting through the valley. And in that, you're building character. Because guess what? If you could take a hit, I'm telling you, if you could take a hit and keep going, tend to that wound, tend to that black eye, whatever it is, and keep it moving, oh, that's a bad man. That's a bad woman. If you could take a hit right in the valley, that's what you're doing. You're taking a hit so that when you get to the top, one, you're going to look back and you're going to say, look what I came through. This wasn't given to me. I earned every step of the way. That's one. But the way to keep that is to keep that vision in perspective. So first, what do you have to do? To keep your vision in the valley, one, you have to create a vision. Because all of us are going to go through valleys. All of us are going to go through valleys. Again, unless you come from like a wealthy family and they could just elevate you to the mountaintop straight from the valley, jump in the chairlift, jump in the helicopter, you right at the mountain, and you up there and you winning and everything is gold and diamonds and whatever it is, then you're going to go through a valley, whether it's starting something new and fresh or whether it's a setback or a failure. So you need to build a vision. Now there's different ways you could do it. You may not be a visual person. So maybe you need to sit down and you need to mind map and write some things down. You need to think about your past. You need to think about what you've come through, where you've come from, even familial stuff, and how that aligns with where you are and where you want to go. You need to think about your present. Where are you? Are you where you think you're called to be? Where you believe, let's say believe and not think. Are you where you believe you're called to be? Or do you feel like you should be somewhere else doing something different and being somebody different or being something different, I should say. Because you are you, but we all are working to be the best version of who we are called to be. So, are you where you're supposed to be in a moment? Okay, let's take that. What about where you were and where you are is going to go with you into where you're going? And so that's how you create a vision, right? So think about where you come from, where you are, and then develop, okay, so where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Not who your mom told you you were, not who your dad told you you were, not who your friends told you were, rather who you feel called to be. So sit down, write it. Some people like vision boards because they want to see. They want to see their dream home. They want to see the yacht. They want to see the car, right? That's material stuff. They want to see the wedding and the marriage. They want to see the children as far as like, you can put pictures of children on there to say, this is what I want in the future. They want to see those things, so they're going to do a vision board. I like vision boards. I enjoy doing a vision board. And sometimes I use Pinterest to create boards because you can put a board on there and I'll create a vision board on there. And my thing is, don't limit, right? Because I was reading some stuff to get ready for this episode, and one of the things that they said that I didn't really agree with was that you should be reasonable, or it should be logical, right? And what that says is like within reason. And so the only thing I should say as a caveat when I talk about this is, yes, be reasonable, but be more reasonable about what you're willing to do, right? Sometimes we get caught up and we say we can't. especially when you're coming in a valley season, you're coming out of it, or I mean, you're going through it. I can't do this. I can't go here. I can't, whatever. I can't find anybody to be with, or I can't find anybody that wants to be with me. Whatever it is, you say I can't. In reality, and a lot of times, it's I'm not willing to do what it takes for that to be something that happens for me. That's the reality of all of this. The reality is that, right? So let's be real with ourselves in that way. What are you willing to do? What are you unwilling to do? What were you previously unwilling to do that now you feel is necessary and you're willing to actually do those things, right? So you need to be real with yourself, but I don't think it needs to be a space of like what's possible, because anything is possible. You just have to be willing. And many of us are more able than we think we are. So yes, there's logic there, but the logic has to be around what are you willing to do, and then what are you willing to put down, and what are you willing to walk into. So the other thing is state your personal and your professional dreams, right? I think that's pretty clear. Like I said earlier, like money isn't. I feel like money shouldn't be your sole uh goal or a sole goal here. So it's okay to say, I want a career, end all be all. I want to make this amount of money at this point, this amount of money at that point. It's okay, because maybe your vision for your lifestyle has to line up with the money that you're making. I get it. So it's okay to set a money goal. That's fine. But I think there's so many other goals that need to be set when we talk about vision that is so far outside of money. And I understand it takes money to do certain things, so you have to get to a point. And that's what the logic part of what I was reading was talking about, that, big dreams take big money, right? Or big funds, whatever you want to say. So I get it. But I do think there's a place where a lot of who we are called to be is outside of the amount of money we're called to make, right? There's some people who live on $40,000 a year and they live a very good life because they steward their money well, and they live within or below, within their means and below their means, and they still live a very good, satisfying, fulfilling life. But yes, state your personal and professional dreams. I can't say it any more plain than that. You just have to put it out there, because if you don't, envision your dreams. Spend some time just like daydream. I'm a daydreamer by trade almost. I've been daydreaming since I could remember, since and I think about it when it was always called out once I started school. But yes, please envision your dreams. Stop to think. What would it be like? What would I feel like if I had, a wife and three children, and I lived in this type of home and had this kind of land, and had this particular profession and was at this level in the company that I worked in? What would it be like? What would I feel like? What would I be content? Would I be satisfied with where I was, or would I feel like this is it? How would that make me feel, and why? Think about those things, because it's very important to do so. And so that's how you kind of build that vision that you can hold on to, right? And the key thing to have vision in the valley, and why it's important, is one, you'll learn what to spend time on and what not to spend time on. So you'll learn if something is in alignment with where you want to be, or if it's a distraction. That's kind of the breakdown of that. Two, when times get really, really tough, and when they get really tough, when it doesn't feel like you're making any progress, this happens a lot. When you see, and the thing is, I could tell you, and this is good advice, don't get too caught up in looking at everybody else. Don't get too caught up in trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? That's important. Um, but the reality is, we're human. We see things. We're friends with people who have different things and different lifestyles and different careers and professions that afford them different things. And if we're honest with ourselves, we want those things. So when you're in the valley, one of the things you'll be learning is not to get caught up in what somebody else has, because you realize that what they have is theirs and what you have coming to you is yours. And what you have right now, let's talk about that. What you have right now is yours. And so it'll teach you to be happy. So when you can say, I'm not competing with, that's a problem. See, this is what I want to get to. When you're in the valley, you realize it's you versus you. And that's the second thing. And learning that it's you versus you, even when you see other people, whether they're your friends, family, or whatever, colleagues, associates, or whatever, acquaintances, community members, people who you don't really interact with that much or whatever, whether it's any of those people, you'll learn that that's theirs. What's mine is mine. What's theirs is theirs. It's not meant for me. So there's no reason for me to even have the slightest bit of jealousy or envy in me, right? So the key here is it's you versus you. That's what the valley is all about. Because even that first thing I mentioned, you know what I mean? Like deciding what's important, what's not important, what's to be engaged, what's not to be engaged, all that kind of stuff is being able to understand that it's you versus you. And when you understand that it's you versus you, then you spend less time trying to compete with other people. You spend more time trying to develop good character, trying to develop great habits, trying to develop authentic relationships, right? You spend more time doing that when you're not competing. So we got to get out of the mindset of competition on an everyday life standpoint, right? We got to get to a space where we can celebrate one another because we're not in competition with one another. So when you see somebody you know, or even if you don't know them, and they look like they're thriving financially, they look like things are going in their, favor, you can celebrate that just on a human level because you're like, yo, mine is coming. I don't have to feel any kind of jealousy or envy towards somebody who's getting theirs right now because I'm going to get mine. And if it's your friend, to me, man, you know what I say? I say, that's in the house. If I see my friends winning, I'm like, oh yeah, it's about to hit me sometime soon. Let me keep strengthening my character. Let me keep building. Let me keep sharpening my vision. Because guess what? I want to be ready when it's my turn. So I'm going to celebrate and I'm going to be genuinely happy for my friends. That's when they're winning. Because I know that joint is in the house. And so for me, that's how I operate. Am I perfect? No. Sometimes you tired. I'm tired of the valley sometimes. I'll be in the valley, but when it's your time, it's your time. And guess what? When it's your time, when you getting all that, when the blessings is raining down, guess what? You're going to want people to celebrate you. And guess what people going to remember? Oh, nah, he was bitter. Oh, nah, he stayed away. He ain't even, you know what I mean? He ain't even say nothing to me about this. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, you got to be able to do what you want people to do for you when you start winning. And that's what you learn in the valley. When it's you versus you, you say, you know what? What's mine is mine. What's for me is for me. You don't look at nothing else, right? You don't look at nothing else. You just say, what's mine is mine, and what's for me was for me. When it's my time, I am going to be prepared because I'm building my character. I'm sharpening my skills. I'm sharpening the vision that I had for my life. And so when it's time for me to win, I ain't squandering nothing. Guess what? When it's time for my friend to win, I ain't in sorrow, right? I'm celebrating. I'm in a celebration mode. Because guess what? I firmly believe that when you got your friends and they winning, one, just the sheer happiness of them winning, them being happy, them being in a good place, that does something positive to my soul. Even people who I don't see as my friend, but I just know you, right? Because friends and knowing somebody is two different things. But I just know who you are. We're friendly. We're associates in certain facets. Even those people, when I see y'all winning on social media, that does something good to my heart. I want to see people win. I don't want to see nobody struggling. Even if I'm struggling, I might be struggling financially or something like that. I don't want to see nobody else struggling. I'm not like, oh man, look at them winning, man. They don't know. Da, 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 da. Some people act like that. You got people like that. Be careful of those people, because they'll try to get you in the valley, and the thing is, those people have lost hope that they'll ever get out of that valley. Hope is important. I don't care what nobody say. I know a lot of intellectuals come down on hope and all this stuff, but it's important for the human experience. We need to have hope, because if you don't have hope, then what do you have? I get y'all tangible people. Hope ain't tangible. I need the actual, outcomes from doing certain things. And it's like, okay, but what about the hope along the way? The hope that because I'm doing the right thing, that eventually this is going to click. Also, in the valley, you'll realize we resent the valley so much, right? And we forget, because we have this vision, right? We got to remember that there's still beauty around us, even in the valley. That's where I'm going to end this episode as far as just my thoughts and take on Vision from the Valley. You got to remember that you can't go around or over things. And plus, the vision you have, if you got to skip all the steps to get to it, it won't even be as sweet or beautiful, right? It won't even be as sweet or beautiful as when you go through the steps. And you have the memories of everything you went through, good or bad, to get to that point. That's why victory is sweet. That's why when we say Marify, and that means win them, when we do that, winning them isn't just them laying down. It's actually triumph. And when we talk about win them, I'm not talking about another person. I'm talking about win them, me. That's what life is all about. All this vision from the valley comes down to is winning the journey towards discovering who you are and who you are called to be. And that is just you walking in the fullness of that. That's what it is. Having vision from the valley is realizing that what I'm going through right now is important for me to be present for. But it's not something that will always be. There's a phrase that I love, and this goes for good times and for bad times and anything in between. This too shall pass. Remember that. Your hard times will not last always. They may feel like it, but they will not last always. They may feel like it, but they will not last always. I had to say that one more time, because even I need to remember that sometimes. They feel like they'll be here forever. Like, I ain't gonna never get out of this. I'm gonna always be in debt. I'm always have student loan debts. I'm always be struggling. I'm never gonna be able to get out of a place of, living paycheck to paycheck. And we get to like wallowing in these sorrows, and we forget that this too shall pass. Because there was a point where you felt good, that passed. Now you're in this point, and because sometimes we can be so dramatic and it feels bad. I'm not trying to negate or invalidate the feeling of being in the valley. What I'm saying is it doesn't feel that great. And those times feel like they're taking longer because of resistance. And there's two places of it. And so you have resistance to be in that, right? We're like, wow, I got to go through this. I see all these people my age, they making millions of dollars. They ain't worried about no bills, but they got other stressors, because that money is distracted them from some of the deep, deep core things that they never dealt with. But that's neither here or there. We start to look in, this person doing well, that person doing well, da, 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 and we forget, like, it ain't gonna last always. It just feels like, because it's a drag. The experience is a drag. So it feels like time is dragging on. And then you'll be in a time where you won't even be thinking about those hard times. But you gotta make the most out of the valley experience. That's the end. That's the long and the short for this episode. This is something I'll revisit. Vision from the Valley is something I'm working on, the speaking. And I'll go into more detail in my presentations of it and things like that. I have a quote. You have a choice in life. You can either live on purpose according to the plan you've set, or you can live by accident, reacting to the demands of others. The first approach is proactive. The second is reactive. Vision is a proactive approach to your future. Casting a vision is a proactive approach to your future. There's no way around it. And what it does is it sets the stage for how you are going to live in the present. If I have a vision for, a peaceful family, then I'm going to be a peaceful family member on the way to that vision if I'm not already in a peaceful family, right? If I have a vision to have a doctorate degree and to be the president of a university, then the things that I do leading up to that point are all going to reflect my vision. I'm not going to allow things, and I'm not saying you can't have leisure. I'm not saying you can't have fun. You can't do other things. What I'm saying is the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis are all adding up to the vision that you have. So I don't have time to quit because I'm in the valley. I don't have time to be jealous of nobody because I'm in the valley. I don't have time to be angry about something that I'm going through while I'm in the valley. Because those things, or let's just say I don't have time to not process those things. I have to process them. I can be angry and it can happen. But what I'm saying is I don't have time to stay in that space. So I'm going to do everything I can to process that. So that wraps this segment up, Vision from the Valley. Make sure you sharpen your vision so that your time in the valley is fruitful.
I am the answer, I am the manter, not for the banter. I am like Sanders, Dion or Barry. You do not scare me.
I am the answer, I am the manter, not for the banter. I am like Sanders, hey, Dion or Barry. You do not scare me.